This is going to be part 5 of how to make a Western leather gun belt from vegetable tan split. So last time where I left off, we got everything assembled. So now it's time to do bullet loops. So how I do bullet loops when I'm weaving them in and out of a belt, I start with figuring out where you want to put them. Now I put my holster on here and 8 inches from, so I'm going to go 8 inches from right there. On the other side, I'm going to go 8 inches from right there where your buckle's attached. So start with, I'm going to mark that. Come out 8 inches, and I'm just going to use a pencil, because you can sand that off if you have marks left over. So I'm just going to do 8 inches from the ends of both of those. Okay, got that mark. Now I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to come down 1/2 inch. Now you got to really watch it here that you get it on the right side of your belt, because if you put it right here, when you go to put it on, it's going to be a left-handed holster. So if you're right-handed, you go where your billet is, and you want, as you're looking at it, so if you'd be looking at it from this side, you want it on the top. If you're left-handed, when you're looking at it, you would flip it like this and then put it on the top. So that's something you got to watch out for. But I'm right-handed, so I want it for a right-handed holster. So as I'm facing, this would be the side that would be on your back, which is where the bullet loops will be. I want that on on the top here. So now I'm going to take my straight edge, line it up at both of my 8-inch parts, and I want to come down about 1/2 inch. But I'm not going to measure that this particular time though, because my straight edge is about 1.5 inches, is almost 2 inches. And I've got 1.5 inch belt, so, or 2.5 inch belt. So anyway, I'm just going to line my straight edge up with the bottom, and I'm going to draw a line just dark enough that I can see it right there. So that's where the top of my slots is going to be. Okay, now we're going to come down another 1/2 inch from that. Actually, I'm going to come down about 3/8 of an inch from that, because I don't want that line visible. So I'm going to make a mark 3/8 of an inch down. And I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. I'm going to line up those two with my straight edge. Okay, the camera will pick that up. You can you can see them. So there's your line. Now for weaving bullets in and out of a belt, you want about 1/2 inch in between the center of each slot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to just lay my ruler here, and every 1/2 inch I'm going to make a mark right in the center of those two lines. I got my 9-month-old son down here with me today too. He's sitting in a seat over here, so that's the noise in the background. So we're just going to mark every 1/2 inch, the whole length of those two lines. If you were going to line this belt, you'd probably do all this on the back side instead of the front. Okay, got all those marks. Now, when we get done, we're going to have 2 additional marks on the outside of this. So I'm going to come out probably about another 3/8 just make a mark. Come out 3/8 from my last mark on this one. Make another mark. That's where we're either going to put a double cap rivet or a Chicago screw to hold the ends in. Alright, now the camera work's going to be a little bit bumpy at the moment because I got to move my phone over to my punch table. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can really see, those are my marks. So I'm going to be putting my oblong punch, which is this. I'm going to be putting it right over the center of that, and then I'm going to use those two lines we drew. I'm going to make sure that the top is even, like, I guess it would be, basically make two T's. I can't think of the technical term at the moment, but so I'm going to put the middle of my punch over the dot, and I'm going to have the top and bottom even with those two lines. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to have to hit it pretty hard with this thick of leather. And if you do decide to get a slot punch, you're going to want one that has a hole in the back of it that will allow your pieces to come out. Some of the Tandy ones, they're good as far as quality, probably better quality than this one, but they don't have anywhere for the extra what you punch out to go, and you got to pick them out every couple of whacks. I've never had one, but I've watched a video from Small Caliber Arms Review making a holster, or making the, I think it was the Paladin rig. He was struggling with that and wishing he'd had something different. So one thing right off the bat, this is going to be a little time consuming here. So I think I'm just going to stop there. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 10 or 12 slots punched. Now if you didn't have an oblong and you wanted to do this, something else you could do. I'm going to use my oblong for somewhat of a reference. But you take your rotary punch if you got one of those, which is something that if you're going to do anything with leatherworking, I'd recommend. That looks about the right size. So I need to come down. So the second from the biggest. And you can just go flip my belt around. And just start at the top. And go to your bottom line. And then you could punch out, just connect them by punching it out. Or a lot of people will take a utility knife. You gotta be very careful doing this. What I do is I just push straight down and make a slit. Then I flip it over and push straight down, make another slit. And then you should be able to kind of just work that out. But I wouldn't try any motion like this, because if you go a little too far, you're going to ruin your entire project. and that is not going to make you very happy. So some of my punching's a little bit off here, but the good thing about leather is it's very forgiving. You can do a lot of stuff wrong. You can screw up in a lot of ways and still be okay. Now I got to decide if I want to use a Chicago screw or one of these double cap rivets. Since I use Chicago screws on the rest of it, I think I'm just going to use Chicago screws here. Yeah, that'll work just fine. That way you only have to buy one kind of hardware. So, take my round hole punch, punch a hole in the middle of my bullet loop leather. I'm gonna take my round punch again. That mark we made at the end, I'm just using that. I got that mark at the end there. I'm going to take my lacing leather and run that through. I'm going to line up my holes. A little more of my Leathercraft cement. There's always a little bit of glue stuck on the top there. Since I got some on my awl, I'll just use that to get it down in the hole. Tighten that up. So that's what we got so far. Now what we're going to do, we need some bullets. So it's one thing I did not pull out ahead of time, so bear with me for a second. I got some right here. Okay, so I'm doing 22. Whatever kind of bullet you're making this belt for is the kind you'd want to use. And I'm just going to take a 22 shell and take the end of my lace, go through my, well actually you go through the same hole. I actually need to, something that will help you get that through a lot is tapering it a little bit. It's probably been 2 years since I made a gun belt of this style, so I got to remember this as I'm doing it. You pull that through, and you want to stick your bullet in there. Now I'd recommend snugging that down real good. Like don't be too forceful, but you want it to be a little tough to get out because it's only going to get looser the more you use this thing. And you just loop in. Go back through. Snug that up quite a bit, but you don't want to snug it up so much that your belt starts to get wonky, because it will if you do it too much. So it's kind of that's something you kind of learn with experience. Now in between these bullet loops you can see those two lines. If you dye your belt you won't notice that, otherwise you can try an eraser or just a little bit of sandpaper. I'm trying to make a video here and show you the technique without it getting too long, otherwise I would have sanded those off or tried to erase them before I started. Another way to eliminate that is to do it from the back, but just for the sake of trying to do a video on showing you how to do everything, I thought it'd be easier to do it on the front. So just different things that when you're actually doing it you want to kind of keep in mind. And honestly, you're the only one who's ever going to notice those light little lines anyway. You want to just get the, looks like my 9-month-old is about ready to go up and see his mother again, so we'll be ending this video pretty soon. But, go through again, go back through. It's okay, buddy. So this seems like quite the process, and it goes a little faster when you're not trying to do it on video and show other people how to do it. But you can take my word for it out of the, I guess I've technically tried 4 methods. I've used double cap rivets to attach them to. Do not recommend that. It's not any quicker and it doesn't look as good. Makes your belt heavy because there's more metal in it, and it doesn't hold up near as good either. If you had better quality rivets maybe, but I don't, historically some of them were done that way. I just don't care for it. I prefer to either loop them like this, lace them, or stitch them. Lacing them or stitching them, there's a lot more brain work, I'm gonna say, because these, you mark your holes, you punch them, you lace it in and out, and that's all you got to do. Or with the other ones, you got to mark your holes, you got to punch out a lot more holes per belt, because this way each hole does a loop. The other 2 ways, you got to have 2 sets of holes to get your loop, and then you got to get holes in your bullet loop material as well, so it's just a lot more work than this. And to me, after a while, this is kind of relaxing putting these in. You get a rhythm going, and I think it's fun. And when you get done, you have a Western looking belt. So that's the start. I think I'm probably going to end the video off here, finish that off camera, and then I'll decide if I'm going to dye it or not when I do the, I'm either going to have 1 or 2 more videos, for sure 1 more, showing you the final product, and then I might show you how to dye it too. There's 2 different ways of dyeing. You can either use a dauber, which is basically a little piece of wool on a metal stick, and dip that in your dye and then just daub it on, hence the name. You just keep going. Otherwise, you can dip them, which is like taking a Tupperware container, cake pan size container, something like that, dumping your dye in that, and then just dipping your whole belt through and then flipping it and dipping it again. That way is definitely better. You get better coverage and everything. But for a belt like this, where I'm low budget anyway, and the main reason I'm making it is just to do the how-to video, like I really didn't need it and I don't have a good way to sell them at the moment, I'll probably daub dye it if I do dye it, and then only do the front, because you're going to be wearing it, so the back isn't going to be visible anyway. But anyway, there'll be at least 1 more video with the, I'll show you how I end off, but I'll get everything punched and finish lacing everything off camera. So I guess that's it for this one, and thanks for watching, and I hope this can help some people be able to get a gun belt if they've wanted one their entire life like I did before I started this. So thanks for watching.